contemplation or contemplative analysis, santosha or contentment, and sadhu sangha, the association of experienced wise. These are the necessary aspects common to all the methods used to quieten the mental activity. Already an elaborate discussion on this is made in the Mumukshu Prakarana. But when these four aspects are taken care of in the practice adopted by the seeker, the problems get eliminated. These four aids also come in the realm of the mind, which are referred to by the scripture as pure vasanas. And the crocodiles that infest the ocean of life, like desire, anger, greed, infatuation, pride, and jealousy, are called here as the impure vasanas. Along with pure vasanas, Paurusha, or the courage to face the eventuality, and Prayatna, or the persevering effort, take care of the rest. That is how a seeker doing Swadhyaya of the sacred text will find an often repeated suggestion: overcome the impure with the pure, whether it is the mind or the vasanas. The significance of this suggestion is not only philosophical but practical, affecting our day-to-day life. Whenever an action is undertaken, it is observed that there are two opinions given by the mind: Preyas, the pleasant, and Shreyas, the good. Even if it is a reply to an insignificant question, one reply to it may be a lie, but which is convenient and has no consequent problem or effort. For example, there is a road accident and one is a witness to it. It is very easy to tell that one has not seen anything, which sets the person free. The other is the truth. If one proceeds to volunteer as a witness, then there can be no end to his visits to the police station or court for no fault of his. We stand at a fork, as it were, and have to decide the course before undertaking the action. Kathopanishad says, Anyat shreyo anyadutaiva preyah te ubhe nanarthe purushagum sinitah tayo shreyah adadanasya sadhu bhavati hiyate arthatya u preyo vrinite. The good is different and so is the pleasant. Both of them have different uses having the binding effect. Between the two, the person who chooses the good gets the auspicious, and the person choosing the pleasant falls. For a seeker, it is mandatory to learn to discriminate between Shreyas and Preyas. This discriminative faculty is present in every one of us. Even a thief or a murderer hears an inner voice guiding him in whispers. It's an altogether different matter if some of us choose to ignore it. We are aware that it is very difficult to find the Guru these days, not because such persons are unavailable, but we have not developed the proper eyes to recognize them. The capacity to listen to the inner or the silent voice within is of great help. It is true that it calls for a sacrifice of our convenience and comfort, which is not very easy. That is why sage Vasishtha repeats the words Paurusha and Prayatna. This inability to listen to the inner voice is caused by two vasanas: Bhoga Vasana, the tendency to experience, and Bheda Vasana, the tendency to differentiate. Bhoga Vasana is that tendency to experience the external world through the windows of the senses. This is gross as compared to Bheda Vasana. This gross tendency leads us towards indulgence. That is how Vairagya, or disinterest towards the objects of senses, is the first step in spirituality. When this Bhogavasana becomes thin, one becomes aware of the Bhedavasana, which is very subtle, which limits the non-dual reality into I, you, he, she, etc. It is this differentiation which gives an apparent reality to the world, although it cannot exist on its own. This tendency takes us towards involvement in the form of identification with the persons or the objects as mine and not mine. And involvement and indulgence happen to be the most obstinate of all the habits. Every one of us is very much aware that death is the only certain thing in our life which separates us from the things or persons from us. But paradoxically, we continue to act as though we are eternal. Almost all the saints have directly or indirectly suggested that if we remember the death at least once in a while, to bring in some sanity into our restless and mad lives. A doubt crosses our mind. If one remembers the death all the time, will such a person not lose all interest in life? It is possible, but not necessary. It is possible when the attitude is unhealthy. For example, if one is deeply attached to the objects and people. But a seeker is supposed to have developed dispassion and disinterest. For him, it is mandatory to befriend death, if such an expression could be used. Vasishta has some practical guidelines. In recent years, the modern industry, or for that matter, even recreation like sports and games, have come to recognize the attitude one should have to achieve one's goals. The word training is found to be associated with the industry and the sports arena. Long hours are spent on counseling and on boosting the morale. General method is to fill the persons with a "you can do it and win" message, which is nothing but the positive attitude. Most of us get attracted to listen to spiritual discourses, where all these lofty thoughts are discussed. In India, at least, it will not be an exaggeration if one were to say that most of us have had an opportunity to listen to such discourse at least once and be convinced, if not inspired by it. But unfortunately, it does not have any effect on our subsequent behavior as we continue to be our old selves. Why is it so? We get the question and answer if we just listen to the persons coming out of such discourses. Invariably, many of them, if not the most, say that the discourse was very good, but how can we follow it in our life? This is possible only for the extraordinary persons, not ordinary mortals like us. Swami Vivekananda used to say that the greatest lesson our culture has for mankind is fearlessness and self-confidence. One idea comes out of all this, the condemnation of all weakness. This is a particular idea in all our teachings which I like, either in philosophy or in religion or in work. If you read the Vedas, you will find this word always repeated: fearlessness, fear nothing. Fear is a sign of weakness. Addressing the people of his own country, India, he said, "The only cause is that you are weak, weak, weak. Your body is weak, your mind is weak, you have no faith in yourselves. Centuries and centuries, 1,000 years of crushing tyranny of castes and kings and foreigners, and your own people have taken out all your strength, my brethren. Your backbone is broken. You are like downtrodden worms. Who will give you strength? Let me tell you, strength is what you want. And the first step in getting strength is to uphold the Upanishads and believe, I am the soul. Me the sword cannot cut, nor the weapons pierce. Me the fire cannot burn. Me, the air cannot dry. I am omnipotent. I am omniscient. So repeat these blessed words. Do not say we are weak. We can do anything and everything. What can we not do? Everything can be done by us. We all have the same glorious soul. Let us believe in it. Have faith as Nachiketa. I wish that faith would come to each one of you, and every one of you would stand up a giant, a world mover with a gigantic intellect, an infinite God in every respect. This is what I want you to become. This is the strength that you get from the Upanishads. This is the faith that you get from there. Like the home crowd cheering the sports team to boost its morale, an unknown sage in an Upanishad addresses the humanity. Shrinvantu Vishve Amrutasya Putra Aye Dhamani Divyani Chakshuhu Vedahametam Purusham Mahantam Adityavarnam Tamasah Parastat. Listen, O sons of immortality. You have the capacity to control over the divine world. I have experienced this infinite person. Only on experiencing him, a man crosses over the death. The Vasishta says that I am not Brahman, I am weak, I am bound, and such other thoughts have a binding effect, while the thought everything is Brahman and all pervading leads to freedom. It is well known that half of the responsibility of getting well lies in the determination and the will to get well of the patient, while the other half with the effort of the doctor. Many a time we see that a very serious accident victim with even a brain injury recovers, while a person without the will to survive may die in spite of the best efforts from the doctor. To this statement, the sage Vasishta Rama sought clarification. What is this Brahman or Atman? To which the sage replied, that which is beyond the trammels of sense indulgence, that which is beyond the speed of desires, and that which is there in everything, that which empowers the jnanendriyas, the instruments of perception, and karmendriyas, the instruments of action, but which cannot be perceived by them, that which is beyond the scope of comprehension of the instruments of understanding is called Brahman. What really happens when one experiences Brahman is pratyabhijna or recognition. How can we recognize it if it were not within our own experience? One is not aware of it because one has forgotten it due to involvements and the identification with the grosser manifestation. This incorrect identification and becoming its slave is what has been called as Maya. Instead, if we achieve mastery over the grosser manifestations, all of them will obey like the ministers obeying the king. Initially, we identify with our own ego, then gradually we identify with the objects and the persons. This is naturally preceded by the differentiation between I, mine, you, yours, and other paraphernalia of the world of multiplicity. So the attachment with the objects, by developing the basic conviction that in spite of the multiplicity, essentially all is one. This has to be accompanied by Atma Vichara, by questioning the reality of the body, senses, and the mind. The methods which can be adopted to achieve such non-identification are spread throughout this scripture. However, we almost never doubt the reality of the world, of our relationship with it, and the gains and pains we derive out of such relationship. Every seeker gets this doubt and wants to know the reason for this misunderstanding. Rama the seeker's representative asks the sage. In reply to the question from Rama, Vasishtha reverts back to the story of Lavana, who became a Chandala under the magical influence of Shambharika, the Siddha, as narrated in the previous sarga. Lavana, the descendant of Harishchandra, one day, while alone in the royal gardens, thought of performing Rajasuya Yajna mentally, which his ancestor had performed with his physical body. Through his sankalpa, he willed all the necessities of the yajna, including the munis, tapaswins, and brahmins whom he worshipped. The yajna came to a grand conclusion with the distribution of all his wealth. When he woke up from his reverie, it was late evening. As a rule, all persons performing Rajasuya Yajna have to undergo intense suffering for a period of 12 years. While persons like Harishchandra and Yudhishthira had to suffer physically, for Lavana the suffering was mental as his yajna was mental. And that was why the celestial messenger assumed the guise of a Siddha and meted out the suffering to the king. Suffering is always an outcome of either involvement or indulgence caused by avidya. Avidya by nature is the lack of awareness and flourishes under non-awareness. Vasishtha Chandraka, the gloss on Laghu Yoga Vasishtha, says, while introducing the 7 states of ajnana, avidya vidyamanaiva nashta prajnesu vidyate namne vangi kritakara samyak prajnasya sakutah. Avidya arises and flourishes in lack of prajna, inner awareness. How can it possibly arise when there is prajna? The awareness as well as the lack of awareness is said to be septenary in nature and have been called Jnana Sapta Bhumika and Ajnana Sapta Bhumikas. They are mutually interdependent. There may be innumerable subdivisions overlapping one another in the septenary division of both these states, like the infinite colors and shades arising out of the 3 basic colors. But broadly, the state which takes us inward towards the unity from multiplicity is the jnana state, while that which takes us towards multiplicity, involvement and indulgence is the ajnana state. Understanding this basic mode of division, it becomes obvious that there have to be infinite levels of being. The nomenclature of the septenary division of ajnana states are Bindu Jagrata, Jagrata, Mahajagrata, Jagrata Swapna, Swapna, Swapna Jagrata, and Sushupti. The state in which the cognition of I is in seed form or in which there is tendency to differentiate is called Bindu Jagrata. In this state, the jiva has manifested, but the clear differentiation has yet to arise. In Jagrata, the feeble conception of I and he, mine and yours, has arisen, and this is the second stage. The differentiation materializes, that is, I, you, etc., start having a binding influence on the jiva due to the repetition of many births, and in the third state of ajnana, which is Mahajagrata. Jagrata Swapna is that state in which the mind holds undisputed sovereignty over the things of the world through previous effects and experiences. The jiva is overpowered by the seen or the unseen objects and dwells on them constantly. Fourth state of Jagrata Sapna is experienced in the Jagrata state and is of various kinds through various delusions like water in mirage, silver in mother of pearl, blueness in the sky, etc. pure Swapna state is that in which a review is made of the innumerable events which one passes through in a moment as if in a dream or a reverie. Sixth state is Swapna Jagrata, is that normal waking state where one recollects the things or events of the past but thinks that it is present, not as a vision but as if real. The last and the seventh state of Sushupti is characterized by the intelligence that is beset with pain and misery when one is totally ensnared with Maya. One might wonder as to why so much effort and so many words are being used to describe the states of Ajnana. It is like the milestones crossed when one is on a journey. The details of topography help the traveler to locate himself. The journey of the jiva is infinitely long and arduous. As some teachers say, that we have come a long way from home, although the question how long from home is very difficult to answer. The classification of these Ajnana states gives us an inkling into the present level we are in. A seeker who has stopped questioning and has started the quest will definitely get an idea of his present position. In finding out one's position, one does self-introspection. Sometimes, when one discovers that one is way down in these seven Ajnana states, it is likely that one gets discouraged. That is why one has to avoid negativity and the depression accompanying it. The introspection should help one to understand the difficulties for overcoming them, just as an examination is meant to evaluate the extent to which one has understood the subject and not for creating a fright. Many of us do get some fundamental doubts about the life we are leading presently and about the life we ought to live. The robopathic and mechanical lives characterized by a